Hello friends, welcome to Kion Lab. Today we are going to discuss instance and schema of a database management system. So first of all, we should understand WWH. It means why we have to study this subject, this topic, instances and schema, for what it is to be required and how it is to be required. So first of all, why it is to be studied. Now as we are knowing that is data is stored in database and data is of different type. To store type of information, what type of information, to store what type of information into database. To make it understand, we have to learn this subject. So type of information, the data or information can be of any type. It can be integer, it can be alphanumeric, it can be string, it can be date, it can be type. So to store all these types of information, we have to learn schema and its relevant instances. Now next W, we should know that to store the information, different types of information into database, what exactly required. Now in the last slide, like abstraction in the database, we have learned the levels of abstraction, that is physical level, logical level and view level. So different levels of schema, depending on the different types of abstraction, there are different types of schema. Now this is what we should understand and we should learn. Now the last H, how it is going to make it understand to store the information at different levels of abstraction, how it is going to helps us, or what are the special things are there, or what are the contents are there to make us understand how this will go ahead. Now to store this information, there are different languages in the database. It has been called as query language. So here it has been clear why, what and how. Why we need to study instances and schema to store different types of information which is available with us. Then what it is to be understand. So since there are different types of abstraction, different types of privileges, security levels, so different types of schemas are there at each level, and how this supports different types of languages in database depending on what type of database we are using. That we are going to see in the data models. What are the different models and what languages they are going to support. It is been called as the query language. Now instances and schema, they are similar to types and variables in programming language. Now it has given the analogy, a programmer written in a programming language, a program written in a programming language. The analogy is something like this: a program written in programming language. If you are knowing any language, so you are knowing how to declare the variables and how to store the values in it. So in C language, the declaration of variable is something like this: int a. So a is a type of variable which is going to store the integer type of data, and its storage space is 2 bytes. That you are knowing if you studied the C language. In C++ it's a different types of storage, in Java it's a different types of storage and different data types. And as we have declared the variable, we can store the value, At a particular moment of time we can store the value. So this is the case with respect to schema and instances. So schema, that is declaration of variable along with its data type, and this is been called as the instance. At a particular time, what is the value stored in it. The technical definition of a schema is the logical structure of the database. Now it is analogous to the type information of a variable in the program. Type information of a variable in a program. Now with respect to the database management system, how it is to be written or how it is to be used. Suppose we have the entity instructor, now this entity is identified by certain parameters, that is the instructor ID, that is his employee ID, instructor's name, department name and salary. These are the few parameters. With these parameters instructor can be identified. Now we can have its ID, employee ID, we can have instructor's name, we can have instructor's department name, and we can have instructor's salary. So with this parameter it can be identified, the instructor can be identified. Now as we are knowing, this ID is represented by either integer or it may be alphanumeric. So at present we can consider it as a alphanumeric. We can mention it something like this. In database management system it would be represented something like this. So depending on that, as we said, there are the languages. So here this is the example with respect to the SQL, structured query language. Name, it requires character up to 20 characters it can accept. Department name we can declare as a character up to 20 characters, and salary we can take it as a numeric value up to 8 decimal number and 2 decimal points in it, and this is the end. So this is the type of information of a variable in a program, or it is called as the structure of a database. This is called as the schema of a database. So there are three types of schema: at the physical level schema, logical level schema and view level schema. These are all the levels of abstraction, and the abstraction, as we have discussed, that is the levels of abstraction, it is going to hide certain details to another level and depending on the different types of users. At the physical level, database design at the physical level, logical schema, database design at the logical level, and view schema, that is a subschema or different views of the database. So these are the three levels of the database. Next we'll understand the instance. The instance, the actual content of the database at the particular point in a time, that is analogous to the value of the variable. As we have seen with respect to a programming language, that is a is equal to 10, the actual value. Now here in this case, as we have taken the entity, that is instructor, and we have taken the parameters like ID, name, department name and salary. These are the parameters by which the instructor gets identified. So ID, he may have employee ID, that is 100, his name may be Mike, his department may be physics, and his salary may be 8 alphabets. So his salary may be 60,000, and we have taken 2 as a decimal points. So this actual contents This is the whole record from which the instructor get identified. This is called as the instance. It is being the actual value at the particular point, the actual content of the database at a particular point in the type. So this is the basic concepts of instances and schema. Now, physical data independence, that is the ability to modify the physical schema without changing the logical schema. Logical schema is by far the most important in terms of its effect on application programs, since programmer construct application by using the logical schema. In general, the interface between the various levels and components should be well defined so that changes in some part do not seriously influence other. So summary, what we have studied today, that is the schema. It is nothing but a schema. It is the structure of the database, and instance is the actual content. And three levels of schema, three types of schema we have studied: physical level schema, logical level schema, and view schema. So this is altogether the concept of instance and schema. Thank you.